Hi, my name is Kenny Ausubel. I'm the co-founder of Bioneers with Nina Simons, who's... Thank you. And I just really want to welcome everybody, and we're so deeply grateful you could be here today and chose to be here today. We're here to really roll up our sleeves, learn together, and find ways that we can start collaborating and transacting on an area that I know is a passionate interest to all of us, which is building resilience from the ground up. And I'd first really like to say a few thank yous to all of our illustrious speakers. It's really an extraordinary who's who of people leading resilience efforts at the community level, the local level, and at the state level and nationally and globally as well. So thank you to all of you. I'd also really like to thank the Threshold Foundation and the Thriving Resilient Communities Collaboratory, who supported this event and did more than that. They really have participated in the outreach, the design, and they're going to be helping to actually implement and run the programs today. So deep thanks to Leslie Meehan and the whole crew who are here. Thank you. And I got to thank Nikki Spangenberg, who's the co-director of our Community Resilience Program at Bioneers, who is the mastermind behind the organization of this day and also contributed greatly to the vision. So Nikki, thank you. And Craig Besserman, who's here, who has been helping Nikki. So the power behind Nikki. So we really began our work in this area in 2001 with Bioneers around relocalization with a kind of spontaneous program called Beaming Bioneers, local community conferences that, kind of out of the seed head of the mothership here, they've sprouted locally across the country. There will be 23 of those this year, and we'll be actually hopefully expanding the program next year. And then that work evolved in 2006 when we decided to do a project called Dreaming New Mexico. And Peter Warshall, the co-director who's done really the heavy lifting on that, is here with us today to look at how you create, look at the preferred state, as Buckminster Fuller called it, for energy and food systems at the state level and the incredible complexity of systems thinking that goes into that, how you actually make all those changes. And then, from there, we really felt like this would be kind of the next step to start bringing together people around all these sorts of networks. This work is popping up everywhere. So as we enter what Paul Gilding called the Great Disruption, which is a synchronized related crash of the economy and the ecosystem, it's just a matter of when, not whether. The world is going to change course at the scale of a wartime mobilization. This time the purpose is going to be to restore nature and human communities, and the sooner we act, the less suffering there'll be and the more options we're going to have. The grail is going to be to build resilience, which officially is defined as the capacity of both human and natural systems to absorb disturbance and still retain their basic function and structure, or to have the capacity to transform to meet the new regime. The first principle of resilience thinking is systems thinking. It's all connected, from the web of life to human systems. And in essence, it's very simple. Taking care of nature means taking care of people, and taking care of people means taking care of nature. It means also watching for the seeds of new solutions that arise spontaneously as conditions change. Resilience thinking also means moving to a much greater decentralization to provide backup against the inevitable failure of top-down command and control, too big not to fail systems. Think decentralized power grids, more localized food and water systems, economies. And the heart of resilience is really diversity. Ecosystems that have sufficient diversity can rebound in the face of crisis and challenge. The same is true for societies. Diverse responses improve the odds. Diverse cultures and ideas enrich society's capacity to survive and thrive. And it all gets very, very specific to locale and culture sheds. Ecological governance is also operating on much grander time frames. We have to be really thinking in terms of staying in the game for the long haul, hundreds, thousands of years, in fact. Other keys to resilience include building community and social capital and empowering local communities to solve their own problems. The one non-negotiable is we've got to face our vulnerabilities really clearly and honestly. As Yogi Berra said, I knew I was going to take the wrong train, so I left early. And a year ago last summer, I had the opportunity, the honor to participate in a meeting in DC a founding meeting to explore the formation of a national security sustainability coalition. It was led or organized by David Orr, who's here with us, several people, Colonel Mark Puck Mickleby, who at the time was the Chief Strategic Assistant to the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Bill Becker, and other people. And at the time, DC was overheating, literally and figuratively. It was hot time summer in the city with climate change bearing down. And it was the height of the climax of the debt ceiling fiasco. And Congress was fiddling and dancing off the fiscal cliff. Gridlock and greedlock in the nation's capital boiled away precious time as we sweated bullets over the dire urgency of addressing global warming from the ground up. As we talked about the need for some kind of national network of sustainable communities, I realized that Bioneers had been highlighting these kinds of models for many years and that they were already happening on the ground. They were not abstractions. Yet I also realized that very, very few of these people and projects had actually ever connected with each other or had much idea what each other were doing. And that's really why we organized this day, this call to action, to continue to advance the formation of some kind of network of resilient communities, or at least to get better connected among ourselves here today. And the living truth on the ground is that remarkable place-based efforts are occurring all over the country, and in fact around the world. Everywhere, people are figuring out pieces of the puzzle with highly innovative approaches and generally empirical ones. It's a process of rapid iteration and failure, oftentimes. The models span food systems, energy, watersheds, finance, social justice, governance, and more. Yet most are very little known outside their immediate places, and only rarely are they in touch with others to learn and transact. These efforts could reach critical mass, which is why we're here today. We can move beyond what Andy Lipkus of Tree People has called the prototype crisis. We never get beyond the prototypes. And if we can get connected and better understand what's working and how a systems map for resilient communities could fit together, that could take us toward critical mass. It's really not so much that we need more solutions. We need to rapidly spread and scale what we've already got. Of course, it's all connected, and so the local is inextricably linked with the regional, the national, and global webs of interdependence. It's ultimately a global-local proposition, which is what Steve Waddell will also address today. But given the gridlock and the inertiatives at the federal and often state levels, the ground truth is that the most progressive and breakthrough transformations are happening at the more local and community levels. The problem is the fragmentation, isolation, and disconnection among countless community resilience efforts around the country and world. As Astrid Schultz of EcoTrust suggested to us in her interview, imagine proliferating these kinds of winning institutional innovations rapidly around the world. Imagine an infrastructure that shortcuts these innovations and gets the world's social entrepreneurs much more quickly to access to capital and existing ideas. Now, networks are nature's primary form of organization. And also on the table today is what the emerging organizational form that Steve Waddell has called global action networks. Global action networks may prove to be the most effective vehicle to meet the complexity and magnitude of the 21st century's wicked problems. The challenge is to answer a single question. How can a critical mass of individuals, organizations, and communities mobilize to produce the kind of resilience they're seeking? The need is to create a hub to build collective knowledge and tools, map the field, share the most promising practices and failures, and catalyze multi-sectoral and multi-organizational collaborations, a global action network of resilient communities. Excuse me. There are two significant resources that we have at hand: pent-up demand plus the desire to act, and existing bodies of knowledge to cause a resilient and robust future. So today we're going to dive deep together to explore community resilience, networks, and how, in this age of nature, we can build a critical mass of connection to reconcile human infrastructure and social justice with natural systems. The morning is going to be largely expositional with a dynamic lineup of leading models and approaches. After lunch, we'll break out into smaller group collaboratories and share knowledge and co-create more ideas together in specific domains of focus. Then we'll come back together to advance the co-creation of the draft sketch map that Scott Spann began, which he'll talk about shortly. And it's based largely on 16 interviews that we did with various, for lack of a better term, thought leaders and doers in the field. It's really just a sketch and a beginning to get the conversation going. And many of those folks, thankfully, are here with us today. So the question is how to begin to link community resilience efforts. Here are some questions to keep in mind. What do we need to know? What don't we know that we need to know? Whom do we need to know? What are the key elements needed to make it all happen? What resources do we need, both financial and non-financial? What are the next steps? And what's your next step? We did not want to call for a specific outcome for the day because the experience, knowledge, expertise, and wisdom here in this room will surface more and better options than we could have. At the least, we'll all learn a lot, make important new connections, deepen existing connections, and hopefully find immediate opportunities for collaboration and actual transactions. So the surest way to heal an ecosystem is to connect it to more of itself. At a meeting with Oren Lyons, Chief Oren Lyons of the Iroquois Six Nations years ago, he said that life is kind of like crossing stepping stones across the river. Oftentimes you can't see the next step till it comes. So we're here today to cross that river together and see the next steps when they come. And we're deeply honored and grateful for everybody's participation here today. We're going to keep our introductions really minimalist in order to maximize the time for our speakers. And we provided you with short bios for the speakers, so you can reference those. And our first three speakers will be Steve Waddell, Scott Spann, and Ruth Rominger. Steve is the author of the landmark book Global Action Networks and the founder of Network Action, and he has chronicled global action networks and distilled the essential principles, practices, successes, and failures. And he'll share his learnings about the formation and function of such networks. Scott and his company Innate Strategies are mavens of systems mapping, and Scott helped create the original systems mapping process for REAMP, who we're very grateful are here with us today. And he'll share an understanding about how networks actually focus, how they develop strategies. And then Ruth Rominger is a consultant also to the REAMP network and is largely responsible for operationalizing its actual functionality. So she's going to give her perspective on the follow-through, how networks execute.